Hi, I'm Tamra and I work for CCUA. And today's kitchen side chat, I actually originally recorded one of these in July, and unfortunately I had some technical issues, and while I was moving, it never was able to drop the video for you guys. So we're gonna do it again. And this time I think I'm going to do a better job of explaining it, so I think it's gonna work out anyway. So again, I'm Tamra. I work at CCUA, and I do a lot of these garden side chats. We call them kitchen side chats on Wednesdays. But today, I'm instead of doing a vegetable and highlighting a vegetable that we love and that's in season, I'm going to highlight something that I just think is the best, especially as school starts and things get busier, even like with virtual school. I think that making quiche and freezing it, or even making several quiches and cutting them into slices and putting them in your fridge, can be a great way to help you in the morning so things aren't so chaotic. So today is all about quiche. So I'm going to show you how to make quiche, talk about what quiche is, and why it gets a rap of being fancy. And I'm going to tell you that I think, in my opinion, I think quiche is just a fancy egg bake. And I think a lot of people think it's so much fancier and you can only eat it at brunch, or you can only eat it if people are coming over. But I'm here to say that quiche is awesome, and I think everybody should be making them. It's cheap, it's easy to make, especially once you've made it a couple of times. You can freeze or refrigerate them and then warm up pieces for your family. There's just to me, quiche is like the best. So my family and anybody that I know has been given one of my quiches if they had a baby or anything. My grandmother, she's 80 years old. When I do get to see her, I do a porch drop off, obviously at a distance, and I drop off a quiche to her so that she can warm it up, and so it can be an easy, quick meal with lots of vegetables that she can enjoy. So, all about quiche. So quiche originated in Germany, and the kingdom that originated from was then named Lorraine. Sorry, blah, blah, blah. My tongue is twisted today. So I thought that was super interesting. So the kingdom that quiche originated from in Germany, the kingdom is now renamed as Lorraine. And if you're familiar with quiche, you know that quiche Lorraine is a really popular version of quiche. And quiche Lorraine is super easy. It's cheese and bacon. That's it. You put your eggs and everything else in, but that's pretty much it for fillers. The thing I like to do with my quiche is I love to fill it with tons of vegetables. No matter what season it is, veggies, veggies, veggies. That's what I love. So you can do that. You can do something else. I thought this was super interesting. So quiche, it comes from the German word Kuchen, which means cake. And I thought that was interesting. So I was like, oh, it's almost like a breakfast cake of sorts. To me, it's more of like a breakfast pie, but whatever. So the thing that is going to change your life about quiche is that it's super flexible. The thing that you have to have is you have to have some sort of milk, and you have to have eggs. And I would say you probably have to have some sort of cheese, unless you don't want cheese, or you can't have cheese in your diet. So other than that, go hog wild. You can do vegetables, you can do meats, you can do herbs, you can do just cheese, like it is endless. I've had a friend that she did green beans and made it more of a savory thing, and they had it for dinner. Your flexibility is just super endless with this, so it's super exciting. So also I wanted to point out, if you're keto, or you are gluten-free, you have celiacs, or you're paleo, or there's a reason why you can't have a crust, you can also do either a hash brown crust, or you can do crustless. You could also make your own crust. I did not make my own crust today, and I will say I've made my own crust for this before, back when I very first started making these about 5 or 6 years ago, and I've gotten to the point where I don't make my own crust anymore. I try not to buy the aluminum pans, but I did today because I was kind of in a pinch, so sorry about that. I do try to not do the aluminum ones, but if you were giving this to somebody that just had a baby, or you were going to give this to someone who was ill, this is probably the best way to go. That way they don't have to return a pan, especially in these times when we're trying to be socially distant from people. And that way, if somebody does have a newborn, they don't have to worry about getting the dishes back to you. So although I don't advocate for using disposable stuff, I know sometimes in a pinch, it's just we got to do what we got to do, right? But absolutely, if you can make your own, or even use the pastry that you put in your own pan, that's what I try to do most of the time. So. But again, flexibility is totally key. You can do what works for your family. Okay, so I did want to mention if you're vegan, there are egg replacements and milk replacements, and there are also kind of variations of quiche recipes that change if you're vegan. So definitely look into those. I have never made a vegan quiche before. I have done it with a dairy substitute, and I felt like it still worked pretty well. It wasn't as creamy though, especially if you can't use cheese and things like that. So I definitely think it's possible, and look into it. And if you find an amazing recipe that you just love that's vegan, please share it with us below, and I would love to share it with everyone else as well. So let's get started. So the first thing that I do, and I'm going to put my recipe below. So this is a recipe that I took from Pinterest about, I would say 7 or 8 years ago. It was a while ago. I had a women's retreat, and I really needed to feed a lot of people quickly, and I needed to be cheap. So what I did was I made several of these quiches from the original recipe, and since then I have developed kind of my own recipe. I've cut things, I've added things, I've kind of like gotten it down to a science because I've made these for so many people. Again, if any friends and family are watching, they know because they've gotten a frozen quiche given to them. If they had a baby, they got a frozen quiche given to them. If they came to my house, they probably got served quiche. It's super easy. So my recipe is below. So what we're gonna do today is just do like a basic quiche recipe. So my recipe calls for any kind of deep dish crust. If you're gonna buy one from the store, make sure you get deep dish. If you're gonna make it, great. Just put it in your pie pan. The ones you buy from the store that are not deep dish seem to be a little shallow for all the veggies that I like to put in here. So you're gonna take 5 eggs, and I went ahead and already cracked those eggs. So what I do is you're gonna take your 5 eggs and you're gonna whisk them together with a fork. Sorry, this is super loud. Okay, and then you are going to take it calls for half a cup of heavy whipping cream and half a cup of whole milk. Now, I've made this recipe probably over 100 times because I make it all the time. And I will say I have done it with just milk, just whole milk. I have done it with 2% milk. I have done it with just heavy whipping cream. It just depends on what I had at the time. It turns out great every single time. I will say though, it doesn't do great if you substitute out and don't use a cow milk. So some sort of a cow product. Again, you probably want to look at a different recipe for that. I've tried using almond milk before and it did not ever set up. It was very weird, I don't know why. So any kind of milk that you want to do. So I did follow the recipe today, but for the most part, I've honestly done 2% milk for both. So if you don't have it, you can sub out. Instead of doing the half cup whole milk and the half cup heavy whipping cream, you can do a full cup of whole milk. You can do a full cup of 2% milk. Just keep in mind, it's not going to be quite as creamy, which is why this recipe is so good. So this is the half a cup of your whole milk. And I went ahead and measured that out before. And this is your half a cup of your heavy whipping. And I'm sure you can see how thick that is. And again, if you're trying to watch your cholesterol or something like that, feel free to switch things out. It's totally okay. If you don't like cheese or your diet doesn't allow cheese, you can go ahead and skip the next step. It's not gonna hurt it. I have made cheeseless ones before. I love cheese, so I felt like it was missing something, but honestly, I think it's just as good. Just add some more veggies instead of cheese. So this next step is, it calls for 1 cup of cheese. You can use any kind of cheese. I mean, I have literally sky's the limit. The only cheese that I haven't used is blue cheese. And I didn't feel like blue cheese, I haven't used it, but I feel like, I don't know. For me, I just don't, I love blue cheese, but I don't know if it would work in this. But hey, try it. I've used goat cheese, I've used Parmesan, mozzarella, sharp cheddar, Colby Jack. This is actually Parmesan Reggiano mix. I actually just had it in the fridge left over. So I'm not gonna use that full cup. I'm gonna do most of it, but I'm gonna leave a little bit of it left over for the topping. So that's just something to note with this recipe. If you're gonna use, it calls for a cup, and you can just leave some over to sprinkle over the top to make it look pretty. You don't have to do that if you forget, it's okay, but it just kind of makes it look pretty. So mix that up. Then a dash of black pepper, a 4th teaspoon of sea salt, and then any kind of seasonings that you want to do. So this is the seasoning step. So I'm going to do pepper, I'm going to do salt. I love this 21 seasoning salute from Trader Joe's. I miss Trader Joe's being close to my house, but whenever I can, I go back there and get some. And then this is one of my favorites. If you watch these videos before, you know I love this one. This is the Herbes de Providence from Trader Joe's. I do a scoop of that. And then I also have some fresh herbs from my garden that I actually cut up. I just cut them up this morning. So I don't know if you can see this or not, but I have fresh parsley from my garden. I finally got it to grow and I'm super excited. Fresh thyme, fresh oregano, fresh rosemary, and I did just a little tiny twig of like lavender. We'll see. I don't know how I'm going to feel about it. I just did a tiny, tiny bit because I don't want it to be too overpowering. So I did that, and then over here you've got your fresh garlic minced, and then fresh shallot. Now, shallot's just a fancy onion. You do not have to go out and buy a shallot. The recipe actually just calls for onion. I just happen to have a shallot left over from a recipe in the fridge, so I just threw that in. Again, use what you have. Make it flexible. If you don't like onion, leave it out. If you have green onion in your fridge, you could totally use green onion. I think it's so pretty on top. It looks beautiful. So I have all my veggies. So I have asparagus, mushrooms, red bell pepper, and again, this was left over from a recipe. I had just like a chunk of bell pepper. I chopped that up. Shallots left over from a recipe, and garlic. I did 3 cloves because I love garlic, but if you don't like it, you can do less. If you love garlic, you can do 6 cloves. Sky's the limit on that. So let's see. So these are my veggies. So this is kind of the whole recipe is like, do your wet goods. You're gonna do your eggs, your milk, your herbs, your cheese, all together. In your pie, you are gonna select, and my hands are clean, you're gonna put all your veggies. And I like to lay them out, make them look pretty. If you don't care, throw them all in, it doesn't really matter. So I put your veggies at the bottom. So I've got the mushrooms, the asparagus, and I always chop the asparagus. I try to use as many heads as I can, and like we'll eat asparagus for dinner tonight. So that's just kind of like a twofold. The bell pepper that was left over, sprinkle that around, make it look pretty. All of that yummy shallot that was left over. I don't buy shallots very often, but they are so good. Garlic, sprinkle that around. Sprinkle, sprinkle. Again, if you don't eat carbs, or you're trying to go carbless, or you have a celiac, you can totally do this with potato as a crust, or you could do no crust. Crustless quiche is delicious. Okay, so there are my herbs. I'm kind of sprinkling my herbs on top, but I'm also going to leave some to sprinkle on top of the thing so it looks real pretty. So then you're going to take your eggs, and you're going to slowly, and I say slowly because I've totally poured this everywhere before, in a kind of a clockwise or counterclockwise motion, pour your egg mixture over your veggies and your cheese and all that goodness. And this is really important. So the reason why I said you gotta go deep dish is because I pour a lot of veggies in my quiche and a lot of cheese and a lot of goodness. And I don't know if you can see this or not, but it is like all the way to the very tippy top. So I don't have a lot of room left over there. Okay, so take my fresh herbs that I left to the side to put on top. I love the color. I think it's so nice. Okay, take that cheese that you kind of pulled to the side, put that on top. And I think you probably heard there was a beep about 5 minutes ago. That's actually my oven because I have another quiche in there that we're going to look at because it's going to be hopefully done. So there's some more herbs. If you want to make it real fancy, throw some herbs on top of there. There we go. Boom. Throw a little bit of this. I honestly don't think you can overdo herbs. If there's an herb that you feel like you don't like, I would definitely, either you don't have to use it or you don't have to use as much as I'm using. I just love herbs so much. Okay, so that's done. I'm actually going to turn around here so you're going to see the side of me, and I'm going to grab this quiche out and see if it's done so I can show you what it looks like. So we're excited. This is live action today. Okay, so what's really cool is that it's not done yet, but I wanted to show you that it bubbles up sometimes. Let me get a towel here. It's very hot. I always put my quiche on a cookie sheet. It's a good thing to do just in case it overflows. But I think you can see here that the quiche is done. I'm going to get a little closer to the camera so you can see. But it's not completely done. It's a little wiggly. I'm going to put it back into the oven for a few minutes, but that's basically what it's going to look like. I don't want to dump it on the floor, but this one is a quiche Lorraine that I made. So that's just your bacon and your cheese. So I'm going to put this back into the oven. Okay, so I just wanted to go over, so once you're at this point and you make your beautiful quiche and then you're going to throw it into the oven, you have two choices. You can bake it full through, just the 35 to 40 minutes. You want to make sure that it's not jiggly in the middle. The reason why I put that one back in is because it's a little bit jiggly in the middle. It's not completely set up. So for these quiche, I'm actually not going to freeze them. I typically do, but I'm actually going to keep them out and we're going to kind of eat them this week. So anyway, I am going to just bake them to 35 to 40 minutes until it's not jiggly in the middle. And then you're going to want to take it and cool it to room temp if you're not going to eat it right away. Like I'm going to throw them in the fridge so we can cut them up and eat them through the week. If you want to freeze them, so you'll want to bake, I would say not the full time. It can be a little wiggly, not too wiggly. It's really hard to explain, but I would not bake it the full time. I would bake it about 5 to 7 minutes less. Take it out, let it cool all the way down to room temperature, and then you're gonna wrap it really well. You could do a bees wrap, you could do plastic wrap if you use that, a bag, like a reusable bag or like a plastic bag. Wrap it really, really tightly, and when it's all the way cooled down, and you're gonna throw it into the freezer. So you can freeze these for up to 3 months. I have froze one for like 6 months. It did okay. It just got a little bit freezer burn on the top. And I was gonna say, normally I tell people, especially that if I give it as a gift, that they can pull it from the freezer and put it directly into a cooled oven. And then if you're heating it up, you're gonna heat your oven to 350, and you're gonna leave it in there until the oven warms up, and then you're gonna warm it for 30 to 35 minutes because it's gonna be from frozen. You can also thaw it in the fridge overnight. And here's when people normally do that. So typically if you're gonna thaw it in the fridge overnight, that's when you're just gonna microwave slices of it. So if let's say I froze like 6 quiches and I'm giving it to someone like my grandmother who's gonna microwave it, what I'll do is I will give it to her frozen if I want her to freeze it, or I can give it to her thawed, and then she'll just slice it up into pieces, and she'll just take every individual piece and put it into the microwave and warm it up. And she said it takes about 30, 45 seconds. And she says it tastes just as good as if you warm it in the oven. So it really doesn't matter either way. If you have a toaster oven, you could do that. If you have an air fryer, you could do that. It's pretty much it. The one thing I wanted to warn you on is if you use a lot of veggies like spinach, like a lot of leafy greens, if you were to freeze that quiche and then rewarm it, sometimes it gets a little bit watery on top. That's kind of why I normally do it from frozen straight in the oven. I have tried thawing like one with a lot of spinach, or like if I did a broccoli and cheese, I've tried thawing one of those in the oven first and then baking it, and it seems to get quite a bit of water on top. You can dab it with a paper towel, you can kind of dump the water out. It's not gonna hurt you at all. It's just maybe gonna not look the best. So that's just something to think about if you're gonna freeze these and especially give them as gifts. But yeah, that's pretty much it. My quiche isn't done, but I'm glad you got to see kind of what it looked like and then what it's going to look like. I will also post a picture below of a finished quiche and how pretty they are. And yeah, if you have any questions about quiche, or you have anything to say about quiche, is there a special thing that you like to put in your quiche, please let us know. Thank you so much for watching today's Kitchen Side Chat. Again, my name is Tamara. I work at CCUA. And if you have anything that you want to learn about, do you want to learn about a vegetable? Do you want to learn how to make your own ceviche? Is there something that you're really interested in learning about that's related to vegetables or gardening? Please let us know. We're always looking for new topics to talk about. Please check out our website. We have a lot of resources on there. Even if you're not local, we have tons of resources. So please plant, like, and subscribe to our Facebook page and our Instagram page as well. So thanks again, and we'll see you next Wednesday.